Good morning, District 9. Feels so good to be back. The last time I was here in person was 2019. You too? Yeah, I know. All right. Yikes. I'm the leader. Now what? Have you ever found yourself in that position? You joined your Toastmasters club on April 1, and you've attended meetings for 6 weeks in a row. So they told you you'd make the greatest sergeant at arms this club has ever seen. And you take the job because they're just egging you on or begging. But you don't really know what to do. You're not sure what you've said yes to. The good news is that in our organization, we have a manual for everything. We have a club leadership handbook manual, and if you didn't know that, club leaders, find it online, www.toastmasters.org. If you're a district leader, we have a district leadership handbook. We have videos galore on how to have awesome club meetings. Pretty much anything you'd ever want to or need to know how to do is on our website. But what's not there are some of the lessons that you're going to learn the hard way. And I know because that's how I learned them. They're lessons like, let me see, if you can't afford it, it's not fun. Oh, were you not here last night? That was the gem of the evening. I don't even need to give this presentation. I've told you everything that you need to know. That was a lesson that kind of popped out of this gal's mouth last night from the karaoke presentation, and I thought, that is a keeper. I'm going to have to research that lesson. Beyond that, there are some challenging lessons that you're going to need to know, and I'm going to talk with you about those today. And I have to warn you in advance, I am a crier. Sometimes I just can't help it. I get a little bit emotional, and I want you to know that I'm okay. You don't need to worry about me. All right, you have stepped up into a leadership position that you have no idea what you're supposed to do. You barely even know your club officer team. And the first lesson that I would like to share with you is start with why. I used to hand this book out when I was region advisor and I was traveling around the districts that I supported in 2019. And this particular one is written by Simon Sinek, Start with Why. It sounds like you are starting a journey and you're thinking about why you want to start the journey. That is the most logical explanation for start with why. What you find down the road, that what you thought you were getting into isn't exactly as easy as people said it was going to be. You're starting to run into a few challenges along the way. And in order to make it through, the why starts to serve as your compass. The why starts to serve you as in, why should I stay? Why am I not just chucking it in when I can't take it anymore? And here's what that looks like sometimes. In 2014, I was District 39 Lieutenant Governor of Marketing. That is the Club Growth Director now. And I got a phone call from David Potowski, Division D Director. And he said, Sondra, I have got a struggling club, and they would like to speak with you. They would like to hear some helpful hints or tips on what they can do to survive. And I said, great, who am I talking to? What's the club? Statement Makers, Toastmasters. And they have 3 members. And I said, oh, I cannot wait to talk to Patrice Foxworthy and advise her that it's absolutely acceptable for her to close her club. Three people. I mean, really, what are we going to do with 3 people? So I call her up and I say, hey, Patrice, this is Sondra Nunez, Lieutenant Governor of Marketing, and I hear you'd like to talk about your club. And she starts to tell me a little bit about it. And I say, you know what? You are perfectly within your right to let this club go. And she said, Sondra, that's not why I'm calling. I'm calling because we want to keep it open. 3 people. My God. 3 people trying to keep the club open. So I say, fine. David and I will drive up to Cameron Park. It's about an hour from where I live. I lived in Roseville at the time. And we will see what's happening at Statement Makers Toastmasters. We arrived, and there were the 3 people, Patrice, Melinda, Steve, and a guest, Lisa. And then David and I. And in the next hour, I witnessed 3 people put on one of the most technically correct meetings I have ever been a part of. Not only that, you have never seen people present better evaluations. And I looked at Patrice and I said, well, if you're looking for a club coach, I will say yes to that. And they said, great. On that same day, Lisa joined. So now they have 4. And I became the coach of the club. And over the course of 2014, 2015, we just worked to stabilize membership because it always felt like it was a revolving door of membership. And in 2015 and 2016, we reached Select Distinguished. I know, it was amazing, right? We had to do a ton of work. Steve is still with the club. That is my home club right now. Statement Makers Toastmasters, we are hybrid. And when it started to get hard, I thought it was hard when we were trying to build the membership from 4 to over 12. I thought that was going to be hard when it was a revolving door of people and we couldn't seem to really crack the code of really solidifying what we were as a team. COVID hit us and you, and suddenly we had to decide if we were closing or if we were staying, right? Are you coming or are you going? And we decided to stay, but the transition to hybrid was so messy. It was so painful. And we would tell people that we were virtual at the time. It took us a couple months to get online, and our member Wei was just determined that she was going to make this happen. It was a mess. It was so painful, but we did it. And then over the course of the next couple of years, we found a venue that would let us meet, and we now meet in a hybrid format. It has been hard. I think that's the understatement of the year. So if you are witnessing hard in your club, it has been hard for me and the members of my club as well. And when it gets really hard, I look at my club members and I remember why I decided to be with this club. The first reason was Steve. He's still with us, and he's absolutely the best evaluator you've ever met. Before COVID, Steve was deaf in one ear. I think he's been that way his whole life. After COVID, Steve became deaf in his hearing ear. And he can now only attend virtually because we have closed caption. It's very difficult for him to show up in person anything. And we are still there because this is the place he wants to be. And then we have Kim Goody, who signed up during COVID. She's actually never attended Toastmasters in person. And the thing that's amazing about Kim is that she's all about raising baby goats. I have no idea what that means. She lives on a piece of property where there are baby goats. They're always in her Zoom video when she's attending club. She's always giving speeches about them, but when she joined the club, she could barely speak. Grown woman trying to be, I think, kind of a health coach is her profession. She could barely speak. And last year, after 2 years in our club, only attending virtually, she was invited to a podcast to share about her knowledge of raising baby goats. And she did it! She was so proud. This year, she participated for the first time in the speech evaluation contest as our club representative at our area contest. And she has said yes to Vice President Education and Training. And I said to a group that I was speaking to a couple of weeks ago, the same thing that I will say to you. If we had closed, imagine if I had said, close that club, and they said, yes, we're out of here. Steve wouldn't have a place to go, where he feels welcome, where he feels comfortable. Kim would not have reached the level of achievement that she has reached in her personal and professional goals, because we would not have been in existence. We, as a club, would have denied people the opportunity to become the next best version of themselves. And when it gets hard, and it does, because let me tell you, in March, 2 months ago, our club was Select Distinguished for 2 weeks. Then April 1 hit. And it was disheartening to see 5 members drop off. And we had finally made it to 18. We had signed up that 18th member in March. Her name is Tony. She's a prior Toastmaster. But in the course of the year, some of the people who had joined had different things happen to them. One became a grandma, and now she's a full-time babysitter. Julie Leo, she's been in and out for a few years. She got a job downtown, in downtown Sacramento. She cannot attend us any longer. Things like this happen, and it felt devastating to me as the club president that it did. But we met as club officers, and we remembered why we're here and why we want to keep going. And we have put in a few plans to overcome that obstacle. And you will always face obstacles in leadership, both in Toastmasters and outside of Toastmasters. So this is a lesson that you can apply anywhere. Start with why. Lesson number 2, and this is a painful one, so just prepare yourselves. No one is coming to the rescue. I'm sorry, no one is coming to the rescue. And in 2020, I think it was about the end of 2020, we were all experiencing COVID. I was serving as region advisor, and past international director Joan Lewis has been my longtime Toastmasters mentor. If you've never met Joan, she stands about this tall, like me. Joan is the kind of person that listens and thinks first and speaks last. She is a very quiet kind of individual. And in 2020, I had been dealing with district leaders who were very frustrated, and I was very frustrated because it was really hard to be a leader at that time. There were high expectations, clubs were dropping off, they had had to go from in-person speech contests to virtual speech contests practically overnight in District 2. COVID hit them on Tuesday, and on Friday they had a virtual division contest. That is how fast they had to turn that over. And it just didn't feel like any help was coming from anywhere. And I called up Joan. The only time I ever call up Joan is when I'm mad, because I want her to give me some words of wisdom and tell me what to do next. So I called her up and I was furious. And this is kind of how I talk to Joan, unfortunately. Thank goodness she's such a kind woman. Joan, this is Sondra. These leaders are dying out here. We are dying from the work that we can't get done, from the challenges that we are facing, and Toastmasters International isn't doing anything about it. Why have they sent no one to help? This is Joan thinking. Sondra, I don't think that's true. Why, Joan? Why don't you think that's true? I'm telling you, they haven't sent anyone to help us. Sondra, I don't think that's true because they sent you. Are you kidding me? Oh, Joan? They sent me. What you're saying, essentially, is that I am my own rescue. Ew. That seems a bit rough, but it is a true lesson in leadership and in life. And when you're in your club, striving to be something that you're going to become later, and it's getting hard, and you are learning skills that you have never learned before, and you don't know why you're in here and why this is not working out, I'll share with you where it shows up, because this life lesson of no one's coming to the rescue when you're fighting through it is teaching you how to stand when everyone else falls. And you're going to need it in your life, not just in your club. And early on in our company, we had a truck driving in the winter. Our trucks drive typically from Sacramento to Reno, and you have to go over Donner Summit. And in the winter, it's a little dicey up there. It's a little snowy, it's a little icy. And one day, one of our drivers was driving over the summit and hit a patch of black ice. And lost control of the truck, veered off to the side of the road. The trailer tipped over, and the back end busted out, and diesel started spilling out all over the ground and down the mountain toward Donner Lake. When that happened, I wasn't sure if we knew how to stand. I wasn't sure if we knew that we would have a business the next day. We had never faced anything of this magnitude before. So we really didn't know. It was so unknown, and I think that's where the fear comes in, and that's where people are uncertain, and they start to get mad, and they start to question why they said yes to Sergeant at Arms. Right? It's getting a little bit too hard here. The box isn't where I left it, and who took the flag? No. Our insurance covered it. We thought, okay, we didn't know if we were going to make it through, but we did. We thought we were in the clear until we received some information in the form of a subpoena that said the EPA was suing our company for a crime against the environment. And we had to go before the judge as owners, and the judge pretty much said, here's a fine. And we said, we don't have any money. We were pretty new. It was only a few years into our company. And he said, if you don't have any money, you're welcome to go to jail if you don't pay your fine. And the judge was, in essence, saying that we will send the president of your company to jail unless you meet what we are telling you you must do. And that was a day that was hard. And I didn't know if we could stand. I told you I get a little emotional. But a few years back, I had come back to Toastmasters, to Roseville Toasters, which is a very large club, and I was just always angry when it was my turn to be the Toastmaster, because it's really difficult when you're brand new and you're wrangling a 30-member club and you're trying to put the agenda together and you don't know how to use the template. You don't know how to modify the agenda in a Word doc. And you're mad that time. And you're mad the second time you have to do it. And I was mad the third time I had to do it. And now years later, if you need me to put on a meeting for 150 people, I can do it in 5 minutes. Because I learned how to stand. That's what's happening in your club. And there are harder days that will come. I thought that that was one of the most, if not the most difficult things that I would face until the day came that I needed to invite my brother-in-law to find another place to work. Yep, he got fired. I thought that that was a hard day until about 6 months later. He had been working for a sub-hauler of UPS, and he was an overnight driver from Sacramento to the Bay Area. And one night, he fell asleep at the wheel, and at 42 years old, died in a single vehicle accident. And the next day, I had to face my niece. When you decide that you are your own rescue, that yes, it's hard learning new skills in your club, but that they will serve you in the most challenging times in your life, that is when you become a little bit more comfortable with the idea that no one is coming to the rescue. So lesson number 1, start with why. Lesson number 2, no one is coming to the rescue. Let me make sure of the time. Oh, we're looking good. Lesson number 3. Now this comes beyond no one's coming to the rescue, because once you've learned how to stand, you will see that people are falling away. These are the people who are really struggling, where you've been able to move beyond the hard, beyond the pain, and they're not, right? These are the people who they signed up on team with you, and they're not showing up, and you're getting angry because they didn't tell you that they now are the sole care provider for their parent. And they had to move mom and dad in. They didn't want to tell you that they lost their job. There's all kinds of reasons why people aren't able to fulfill the commitments that they say they can. A lot of times, it's not even anything as difficult as that. It's simply the fear of not knowing what to do and being ashamed of saying that out loud. So lesson number 3, and man, did I learn this lesson the hard way. Mary will remember. Learn to show grace. And I know people think that I'm a super nice person. And I haven't had any conflict with any leaders that I've worked with in the past. But this is a lesson that not only did I have to learn it the hard way, but sometimes it just keeps coming back. You ever have those lessons that just keep coming back until you finally get it right? Well, as a district leader, I think most of you know, but if you're newer to Toastmasters, every district is managed by 3 top leaders. You elect them: the district director, the program quality director, the club growth director. And oftentimes you're elected with people that you have never met before. That may not happen in this district, but in my district, during the years that I served, I had a new team, 2 new people, every year for 3 years in a row. People that I didn't even know. We weren't even friends. I'd barely even seen them. And suddenly we're working together. And my club growth director year, I had 2 wonderful gentlemen, Brian and John. We are friends. Well, John has passed now, God rest his soul. We are friends, but there came a point in that year where we had a disagreement, and John just fell away. He was so mad at us that we didn't agree with him, that he just kind of fell away. But we were the kind of professionals that no one knew that was going on. They didn't know that it was hard for us. We just kept trucking. But my real messiness blew up in the next year, in my program quality director year, when I was working with George and Lance. And George was the director, and Lance was the club growth director. And Lance he'd held division director, but he hadn't held beyond. And he just was really struggling with what to do. And by August, when we all went to the annual convention, our team was just blown up to bits. Have you ever been on a team like that? Blown to high heaven. We were operating in our absolute lowest self. There was no emotional intelligence going on. I don't think we even knew that term existed then. We were just in open warfare all the time. So you can imagine the state of our district, because as the leader goes, so goes everyone else. It was just a mess, and nobody wanted to be there at that time. And at the end of that year, Lance did not move forward, and I knew that as a director, I was going to have to be a different kind of person. Right? We were going to need some peace in our district. We were going to need to have some kind of place where people wanted to be. And about midway through my director year, Lance wrote me a letter and sent it to my house. He mailed it with a stamp. A handwritten note that said, Sondra, I think that you're doing a great job. I feel like there is peace in our district. And in that moment, the gentleman who I had been my lowest self to, who I could not have treated worse, showed me grace. He opened the door. And here's what comes next when you do that. In our district, we have some people who are a little bit difficult to get along with. I know they'll tell you that it's me. For years, this one gal was just on me all the time. No matter what I did, it wasn't good enough. I didn't pronounce people's names properly. I didn't spell properly. The event wasn't good enough. She didn't have a ticket. But here's the thing about this gal. She was one of the hardest working people in our district. Whenever we needed to call on anybody, we called on her. Whenever you needed anything, year after year after year, you called on her. And in the year that I was the director, we decided that we wanted to start recognizing some people because we were changing the culture of the district. It had been a little bit toxic, and we wanted to change it. So we decided to create the Unsung Hero Award, and we were going to give it to the district leaders who were routinely not recognized. We have a couple of awards in our district. We have Toastmaster of the Year. We have the Herb Yarbrough Sustained Service Award. And those are the biggies, the prestigious ones. And this gal had never earned one of those awards, which was pretty shocking to me considering all the work that she did. And we put in the nominees, and I didn't put in her name. And we talked about it, and I didn't put in her name, but it just kept bugging me. You know that kind of bugging where you can't sleep? Because it's just... And I said, okay, team, we're going to give her this award. And we were at our conference, and I'm announcing the recipients of the Unsung Hero Award. And a woman who she and I barely speak to each other, I announce her name. She stands up crying. It was like the first time anyone had ever noticed every single thing that she had ever done and given her public recognition. And she came up to the stage, and I think for the first time ever, we actually looked at each other. I was able to put down my ego, put down my pride and show grace because flants. Because that's what it does when you show grace. It's not easy, and you're going to do it to people that you don't really care for. But here's a lesson that I learned during the time that I was leader in a district that seemed to be forever broken. And a bunch of us never understood each other. We didn't agree with how things should get done, and we didn't like to work with each other. When I became the director, I knew that I had to be a different kind of person, and so I decided to understand that even though I did not like how they did the work, and they certainly did not like how I did the work, we had one thing in common, and that was that we were working for the success of the members in our district. When I decided that we had that in common, that made it so much easier to embrace them when we showed up at events, to acknowledge their contributions to our district. It enabled us to unify our district. It is difficult. It might be the most difficult lesson you'll ever allow yourself to go through. But when you're willing to walk through it, and you're going to have to remember your why. I did. I had to remember every day that why I was doing it is because I wanted our district to be a place where people wanted to come outside of their clubs and work at the district level. And that was something that we hadn't seen for a while. So, lesson number 1, start with why. Lesson number 2, no one is coming to the rescue. Lesson number 3, learn how to show grace. And lesson number 4 might be a bit of a challenge in a world where how do people feel about change? Not good. It seems the more people I meet who say they cannot stand change. Change is painful because it's unknown, because it feels like it's out of your control. You don't know what's happening next, and so you're fighting the darkness because you can't see through it. But here is a lesson that if you can figure out how to embrace, this is where your true success will come from. Cultivate an evolutionary mindset. Cultivate an evolutionary mindset. There are things that you are going through that you have said no to because it seems hard. But here's what goes with an evolutionary mindset, and it's something that is very deep for me and for many people that I meet, is that everything that you want, every single thing that you are working for in life, you will find on the other side of fear. We are afraid of change because it's unknown what's on the other side of it. We've never experienced it before, and so we say no. Change comes when we feel that we're getting to the end of something. But here's how evolution works in your real life. In my company that my dad started as an owner-operator, and that he didn't know how to grow. He had had companies before that had gone bankrupt, that had failed. We had to move forward. There came a day when my dad was yelling at everybody, and that kind of culture just could no longer stand. And I had to invite him to retire because his fear of change, his unwillingness to change, was stopping the growth of our company. And the problem with that is 4 generations of my family make a living off of that company. So it's not an option to fail. It's not an option to not evolve. We have to keep going. And then there was my mom. And she had been the company bookkeeper for a long time. And if you have ever run a business in the early 2000s, you would know that not everybody knew how to use QuickBooks. And my mom is running a couple of $1 million a year out of a checkbook that she is writing checks from, and 3 written check ledgers. Every day, she's writing in the ledgers, all the things. And so we're trying to get financing for new equipment, and they're asking for financial reports that we can't create. We have no way to create them except manually by going back through a year's worth of paperwork and trying to figure it out. And the hard day came when I had to advise my mom that she was invited to retire. That was a very hard day for her. However, when they got through with the hard and through being mad at me, they now winter in Arizona. Yuma is where she's from. Her family still lives all around Phoenix. Many members of my family are buried in the Yuma Cemetery. They go back there every year in April to commemorate the passing of their parents. So she has a place in Arizona and a place in Sacramento, and they have a motorhome and sand rails and all kinds of fun things that they spend their time doing. But they couldn't see that part of it. They were afraid to let go of the only thing they knew. But you have to be something else. You have to cultivate an evolutionary mindset so that everyone can evolve. Ooh. And that's actually happening right here in your district. The last couple of days have been pretty amazing. There is a lot of opportunity in this district. There is a lot of upcoming growth in this district. And there are quite a few people who are interested in making that happen. And I'd like to introduce you to a few of them. Jackie, stand up. Jackie and every single person in this room working to start a new club in Hayden. Would you stand if you are in the room? Is there anybody else here with you, Jackie? Okay. Yes. Yes, exactly. Just when you didn't realize another club was going to be coming into this district, you have some people who are absolutely willing to have an evolutionary mindset and make sure that it happens. So thank you. Thank you. Evolutionary mindset. Man, some days it's really hard. And you don't know how you're going to stand the day that you visited Spokane Falls Toastmasters, and the theme of the day was what? What was it? Amphibian. And you left your phone in the car, so you couldn't even look up what that meant. Spokane Falls Toastmasters, if you are here, stand up. Yes, this is an incredibly diverse club. We met members from all walks of life, all professions. A couple zoomed in from Japan. The wonderful gentleman was singing. And I walked out of the meeting just as I had walked out of the meeting that I had visited in the morning. Is it Talk of the Town? Talk of the Town Toastmasters, stand up. I know you're in here. Exactly. Yes. Very strong club out of Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. Thank you. Working to charter a new club. I know they can't wait to be district leaders. I haven't left clubs in a long time where I felt challenged, where I felt out of my comfort zone, where I felt that there was an opportunity for me to grow. And that is how I felt when I left those clubs. All right. Now, for the pretty amazing thing that's happening in this district. Debbie, is Jessica here too? These glasses can't see everywhere. Debbie. All right, so I met Debbie yesterday, and Debbie has an amazing idea with Jessica about how to move the Rotary Toastmaster Alliance forward. And you all apparently have a ton of Rotarians running around in the geographical area of this district. And I'm not going to tell you too much because it's not my idea. It's their idea. And if you're a Rotarian or you know Rotarians, I would encourage you to meet up with them and talk with them. But here's what happens when you have an evolutionary mindset and you dare to ask to go to lunch with a stranger. That was me. I say, what? That is an amazing idea. And as luck would have it, I met an incredible Rotarian, Tyler, out of Revanstoke, British Columbia, 3 weeks ago in District 21, a gentleman I'd never met before, and he is president of his Rotary chapter. He is an exciting young man, and I cannot wait to introduce you to him. Because I have a feeling that you all are going to get along great, and you're going to figure out how to bridge this program into a couple districts. And then I'm going to invite the region advisors to meet with you and see what they have to say, because that is their job, to support district leaders. I'm going to invite them to talk to the incoming trio and figure out how maybe this program can go region-wide. Maybe. I don't know. I won't be doing it. That's not what I do. But they're going to be able to work on it and collaborate on it. And suddenly you go from the evolution of a city and a club to an area division district, to another district, to another one, and then to a region. That is how an evolutionary mindset works. Am I off time or on time? Oh my God, I still have 20 minutes. You just like, I'm never leaving here. Never leaving here. I would love to know a couple of things from you. Now that you've heard from me, and there are so many more lessons that we can save for another time, right? But in today's session, it's start with why. Right? Start with why. No one is coming to the rescue. It's a pretty hard one, but it's okay. Learn to show grace. Learn to show grace. Cultivate an evolutionary mindset. And I know that there are circumstances that you have gone through, that these have come into play, and that you have put forth one of those lessons or any others that you have learned. We've listened to several others today. Everything you want is found on the other side of fear. That's something that people learn. There are others that you know, and I'd like to take this microphone and walk out there where you are, and if you're brave enough, I'd like to invite you to either A, share a lesson that you have learned the hard way, right? Maybe 1 to 2 minutes, it's going to be a table topic. Share a lesson that you've learned the hard way that you think people in this room could benefit from. Or maybe share when you had to apply a lesson that you had learned the hard way, right? So I'm going to give you a moment to think about that. I can stand up here all day, but that's boring, okay? I know that we are Toastmasters and that we have things to say. So I can't really see all that way with those. So, oh, there's someone in the back. And this gentleman was a riot last night. Just a riot. It was like he came prepared with his impromptu karaoke. And you're going to need to tell everybody your name and your club and whatever it is you'd like to share.
Certainly. Thank you so much, Ms. Nunez. My name is Bill Lewis. I'm a member of Lake Pend Toastmasters Club and MIT Humor and Drama Club. I just moved here from Boston, so. I was district governor of District 31 in Massachusetts, and my lieutenant governor of education, my lieutenant governor said, "This is too much of pain, I can't do it, I am not going to go on to become governor." He was 25, who was the youngest that we have ever had, and we talked about it, and I gave him the lecture. 10 years from now, you will be standing in front of a bunch of venture capitalists, and they will be asking you about your experience. You're going to be building this company. What experience do you have? These kids over here from Harvard, they're going to be talking about how they got an A in leadership, they got an A in business administration, and you are going to say, "I led a district of 3,000 people. I had a budget of $50,000. I had almost 100 people on blah, 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 blah." And of course, and maybe not of course, but he took this as an inspiration and he continued on and became the youngest district governor we've ever had. And so this is the exact opposite of what you're saying. He did not pull himself up by his bootstraps. He didn't have the power to do that. Most of our members don't have that power because you and I were the leaders. We have the experience. We're the ones who have to be coming to the rescue. We're the ones who have to help our fellow younger people come up. Anyway, so that is my experience and my opinion. I really think that we, the leaders, need to be doing more leading.
Thank you. Yes, that's how it happened. That's exactly what Joan was doing when she was telling me that I have to come to my own rescue. Okay, hold on, I'm going to go right. Okay, here we go.
Thank you. My name is Joy Winning. I am with Frankie Balmer, number 95, down in Pullman, Washington. Our VPE put together an executive committee for our first potluck picnic in the park since I have been here. I came in 2017. And she said, "Okay, we're going to have an executive meeting at 7 o'clock on Zoom on Tuesday. Can everybody make it?" "Oh, yes, we will." And at about 7:18, I'm like, "Oh, holy criminy." And I jump on the line and I say, "What did I miss?" And my VPE said, "As an executive, you need to be showing up on time. We're not going to be covering what you missed. Please be on time next time." And so next week at 7 o'clock, Tuesday night, if you can make it, we're having an executive meeting to continue the planning. Yes, everybody will make it. And at 7:30, I ran upstairs and I'm like, oh. I didn't have a clue what to say because it was just me being me down in my room without my phone. My son has taken all the batteries out of the clocks because they tick too loud. That is such a lame excuse. And I get online as they're wrapping up, and she says, "Is everything okay?" And I said, "No." And the other member said, "What's wrong?" "Nothing." But what Toastmasters helped me to do, she gave me a hard evaluation. She asked me to show up. And I was so awkward that following Monday morning when I knew I was going to have to see her and I was wrong. And that was before I did the blunder the second time. Nobody's asking us to show up and shine in the way Toastmasters does, and to give an evaluation, and to receive an evaluation, and to be able to step up and take ownership for my blunder and not be a brat about it and think, she's just a, right? Because she asked me to step up. And I'm so grateful for Toastmasters asking us to show up.
All the things happen. Let's try this one. How's this? Okay. Back on track. It's painful to become the best version of yourself. People have to help us do it, and they usually do it in the form of telling us that we need to be better. We could go for here first and then to you.
Good morning. My name is Dave. I'm with the Frankie Ballmer Club in Pullman, as well as Next Level Toastmasters. And you mentioned two things which immediately came to mind, like, I don't know if I should share these. This is kind of vulnerable. But learning to show grace. I'm president of a club in District 27. And this is my 5th time as president. You think, oh, he's got it covered. He knows how to do it. The prior 4 times, we appointed ourselves, the officers, and we took on those duties on July 1st, and we kind of winged it. We didn't put a whole lot of effort to it, and then a year came by and we reappointed ourselves. And that's kind of been my experience as president. Has anybody, you don't have to raise your hand, has anybody kind of encountered that? Well, this club has a secretary who also reminds me of your unsung hero person. And she's a leader, a member of other Toastmaster clubs, and a president of another Toastmasters club. In the first few months I was there, she said, when are we having an executive committee meeting? I go, executive committee meeting? Do y'all still have those? I mean, I remember having 2. And so I had one. And she said, well, we're going to schedule these monthly. And we scheduled them monthly. And whenever I put the agenda together and I share it a week in advance, I said, anybody want to add something to the agenda? And she often emails me, I'd like to talk about this, or I'd like to talk about that. I mean, I had to confess, I've not yet confessed it to her, but I shared with others how much I have grown as a leader because somebody was behind me with a little match, lighting underneath it, making my posterior kind of warm. And I learned to grow through that. She's like an unsung hero. And this is one of the best years of being a Toastmasters leader because it's been the most challenging. I've made a lot of mistakes. You failed, but it was on the other side of fear, and she encouraged me to do it. So much so that we elected last night, 2 nights ago, the officers for the incoming year, and we are starting with our executive committee meeting in June, a mentorship program for new officers. We're starting with a transition meeting between old and new officers because how many times people get in on July 1st, like, great, I signed up. No, wait, what do I do? What? I could do social media and VPPR? I mean, what do I do? And so we're going to do that. So we want, as I shared with the members of the executive team, we want to set our people behind us up for success. And if it enables more work for us, then I want to do that. And Toastmasters has helped me. And I didn't even share the story about where I had to extend grace to another officer, but that's something else. But those 2 points came to my mind. And thank you very much, Sondra.
Thank you. So true. I'm going to be president again because I can't get it right. Okay. But I will this year.
Yes, I'm Louise Griffith, and I'm with the Moonlighters. My challenge has been with one of our members. She's kind of a disabled person, and I've been her mentor all along. But the other night, she made her speech, and she did well. As a matter of fact, she won. She seemed so excited and so happy. She couldn't wait to get on the bus and call her husband and tell her. And also her mother and tell her, who was at the meeting via the hybrid. She was just wonderful, excited. I never saw her smile like that. She has been a difficult, as I said, a difficult person to deal with, but she's always willing to do things. And I've tried to help her write these speeches and go through them with her and help her out. And the other night I was really proud of her. And I know that there's one of the other officers in our club that has also tried to help her. She's a very, as I said, she's a very difficult person, but she has been encouraged by all of us. And I think that eventually she's going to, really come around and really work at things. So that's what our leadership does. We try to help the individuals that are kind of mentally challenged and have problems, but they can do it. And she has from the other night when she won Best Speaker.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, one more. We're going one more over here. I'm going to scoot through. Okay.
Well, thanks so much. Since one more contestant spoke, I felt I could. The whole thing is, though, you'll hear about me this afternoon, but I am Micah Maddox, Talk of the Town Toastmasters. I've been in the club for 10 years, not in district yet, but we'll see. The whole reason why I'm still here after 10 years is not because I enjoy so much speaking in front of a room full of people I don't know, but it's because of all the members in our club. And we have been President's Distinguished for the last 7 years. Thank you. And I remember there were times where 2 of us would show up. It would be a mixture of Jeremy, Ann Whitetree, who's not here, Maura Durant, her husband John, and myself. And there were times we discussed closing the club, but we refused. And one of the things that I love about showing up at 7 a.m. on a bloody Thursday, and these are stories that they'll share themselves, but Jessica Hallberg, who is leading the initiative with the Rotarians, along with Mrs. Debbie Ford, Miss Debbie. She's even younger than me. She's a baby. And her first speech, she will tell you, was delivered in her gorilla costume because she couldn't stand in front of a club and speak and show her face. Jeremy would speak so softly we couldn't hear him past the first row. And he's now in district leadership. We have had so many people in our club where the club allowed them to learn that they were not just okay, but they were good, and allowed them to exercise. And with great evaluations from Maura, who actually by contest is the best in the district, we have not just grown as a club, but we have grown as people. And that sense of contribution and feeling a part of a club, feeling a part of an organization like Toastmasters that has allowed the people who have become friends to flourish. Heather, Zilka, Jackie, who's now growing her own club. Zilka did a thing for me yesterday where she had a picture that she took of me that was actually good, of me. That was really hard to do. And she sent out encouragement, a picture of me with our flag, the whole thing, superimposed, did a great job. She's our VP of PR. She'll serve again. Encouraging me to represent our club, our district, and she's going to serve again because she wants to flourish more in that role and support our club as a whole. It's been a great thing to be a part of. I love our club. Toastmasters has been so great, and the whole reason I keep coming back is because I love seeing others have that chance to grow and flourish the way that all of the people here and not here right now have helped me. Thank you.
Thank you. as I make my way back up to the front, excuse me, one of the lessons that I learned the hard way from Dana Lamont, and if I ever get to come back here and speak, I will give that presentation. Say yes now, figure out how later. Just putting it out there for those of you who are on the fence about club officer positions or area director positions. Say yes now, figure out how later. All right, last words of wisdom. Remember who you are. Remember who you are. It's easy to say that you're Toastmaster member of Statement Makers Toastmasters, club number 769. And that's all I am, and I go to club meeting 3 times a month for second, third Wednesday at noon to 1. But when you dare to take one step out of your club, you will find that you are a member of something much greater. You are a member of an organization where your fellow family members, Toastmasters, over 280,000 of them are in 148 countries around the globe, and we are celebrating our 100th anniversary. Okay? You are here the same as me because the people that came before us dared to stand. They chose not to give up, especially those of us who didn't get let in until the 70s. Okay? We just had to fight our way in. Sorry. We had to just bust down the door. And I share a lot about that because my good friend Maria Sider, who passed away the year that I was the district director, was one of those women who first joined as Mark. And later, Marcia went on to be an international director. And when you look at the picture of the year that she served, there were just like a couple women, you know, and there she is. And her husband, my friend Rick, every time I reached something different, when I became a region advisor, he gave me something that belonged to Marcia from her Toastmasters. And when I became international director, he gave me a plaque that she had received from a contribution to the International Convention in 1986. That was the year that we had our first female president. When it gets hard, when you've forgotten what your why is, because you're gonna, the day that you want someone to come to the rescue, I always do, the day when it's hard to show grace and you don't feel very evolutionary, I would challenge you to remember who you are, to remember the stories that you've heard, to remember what you have accomplished. And what you are is a member of an organization that has helped people, millions of people, over the past 100 years, and we plan to do so for 100 more.
Thank you, Sondra, very much. In your packets, we have evaluation forms. You don't necessarily have to fill it out now. That was a very powerful presentation.